Hello my friends, I am in Toro, the town that gives its name to the denomination of origin Toro. Toro means bull in Spanish, and there is no better name to describe the wines made in this area. They're powerful, strong, they're bulls. And this strength comes from the grapes. Grapes that take their vigor from vines that have even resisted the attack of a bug, the phylloxera, that devastated most European vineyards in the 19th century. No kidding with Toro wines. Come and walk the region with us. Toro is a Spanish protected denomination of origin for wines in the province of Zamora, in the northwest of Castile and León. The wine production area governed by the Toro DO is situated to the southeast of the province of Zamora and includes part of the natural regions of Tierra del Vino, the land of wine, the Guareña Valley, and Tierra del Toro, the land of Toro. The town of Toro, a spectacular medieval city, is the capital of the region. Wine has been made in Toro for a couple of millennia, starting from Celtic tribes that were trained by the ancient Greeks on winemaking practices. Indeed, out of the wine-producing areas in the river Duero, Toro wines were the first to be traded in the Middle Ages. The Spanish court drank Toro wines. King Alphonse IX granted lands to monks in exchange of planting vines in the area. Many of those original churches can still be found in the streets of Toro, like the one behind me. Toro wines gain high reputation in major cities across Spain, partially due to the constant temperature and humidity conditions achieved in subterranean cellars, excavated several meters underground. Toro exports outside Spain grew with the arrival of the phylloxera in the end of the 19th century and continued during the attack of the bug to other areas in Spain, as Toro vines were protected against phylloxera by its sandy soils. This is why Toro still conserves many pre-phylloxera vines with authentic Vitis vinifera roots. After the recognition of the area as an official denomination of origin in 1987, the approximately 50 wineries in the area dedicate strong efforts to the production of traditional wines that are very characteristic of this region. I'm here with Kiko Vigardo, who is the owner of Bodegas Vigardo, and he's going to tell us a little bit about the history of the town Toro, and in particular about this arch, the tower. Kiko, glad to meet you. Tell me about the history of this arch.
Un placer.
The history goes, legend or not, that the Ark of the Clock is made with wine instead of water. Because at that time, and here we have a wall art of 1719 that talks about how it was made, it was easier then to get water from the subterranean cellars around in this square than to go down to the river, which is a couple of kilometers downhill, far and complicated to get there. It is outstanding to think that it was easier to get wine than water.
It is thought that the concrete used to place the stones was done with wine, right?
Exactly, with wine. This is very unique in the world. We don't have the possibility to taste it. But it makes all the sense in the world.
Toro's history is closely associated to wine, because Toro wine was the most popular. The wine that was sold to the court, the knights drank Toro wine.
Exactly, yes. In the court of Seville, when the discovery of America of the Indias, Toro was privileged then, in part thanks to Fray Diego de Deza, of whom we have a statue nearby, who was a consultant to the king. Indeed, it is known that the wine of Toro was the first that went in the ships of the discovery of America, and one of the ships was called Pinta, as the Pinta was a measure for wine used at that time in Spain. I don't know the technical details, but it was because Toro wine was the strongest and could survive the long ocean journeys. The high alcohol acted as an antioxidant, a natural protector of wine.
Right, at that time the wines commercialized for travel were Porto, Sherry and Toro.
That's right, because of the alcohol grade. In Porto and Sherry, you add alcohol, but in the case of Toro, we have the luck that it's already high as it's made.
So I'm here with Carlos Gallego, who is the oenologist of the Regulatory Council of the Denomination of Origin Toro, and we are in subterranean cellar. That is where wine was done in the old times. Carlos, gracias por recibirnos, encantado.
Muchas gracias.
Thank
a
you.
vosotros.
Tell me about how wine was made before the creation of the DO. I'm talking about centuries ago, in the Middle Ages.
Around 1505, when they created the laws of Toro here in Toro, with the presence of the kings, we have evidence since that moment that the wine of Toro, the Tinta de Toro, is very present in the economy of the town of Toro. Toro is full of cathedrals of wine underground, as this one. In 2005, we recovered 5 subterranean cellars that can be visited now. Traditionally, the wine of Toro was elaborated in these cellars. This one was of the Agriculturists Association and is now owned by the Agriculture Chamber. It's called the Niña Bonita. It has 3 stories and it's spectacular. These are natural fridges, not only for wine, but for all alimentary goods. However, wine was an important part of the economy of the area of this town. Then, most subterranean cellars had 2 or 3 stories. In the upper story it was the lagar, where they made the wine, stomping on the grapes. Once done, it flows through channels made of clay down to the lower stories. In the cellars they had clay recipients, tinajas, and wood recipients as well. Now we use oak, but then in Spain we did not have much oak, and they used chestnut. Toro wine in the old times was aged in chestnut barrels. These cellars provide a natural means to conserve wine. When in the streets the temperature could reach 25 to 30 degrees Celsius, we have 14 to 16 degrees, and this also guarantees a high humidity, together with a low temperature that helps conserve the wine and many other products. It was an intricate part of the town's economy. When Christopher Columbus embarked on his discovery of America, it gave the name to one of his ships, the Pinta. Pinta is a measure of wine. Using a pinta was using a measure of wine. Therefore, the wine of Toro has been part of the discovery of America. A long history, it has had a strong weight in our society.
Indeed, within all the wine production areas along the Duero, from where it's born to where it dies in Porto, it was the first wine to be exported out of the Iberian Peninsula, right?
It was the first exported wine. And when the phylloxera came from America, when we lost most of the Spanish vineyards because our lands, our sandy soils near to the Duero were very humid, it meant that the little bug had very little mobility around the vine roots and made our Tinta de Toro to be more authentic and distinct because the vines are pure and have survived a long history.
One thing that I find peculiar of these subterranean cellars, with respect to, for example, the ones in Rioja, is that they use lots of clay bricks, like the clay channels for the wine. Is this due to the Ara presence in the area?
I don't know that in detail, but it is true that the mudéjar influence is very present in all constructions of that time. For example, La Collegiata, it was started Roman and finished Gothic. They started constructing those buildings in the 11th to 13th centuries. At that time, it was all based in stone, white calcareous stone, and on the mudéjar brick.
Carlos, thanks a lot for all the explanations.
Thank you very much. Enjoy Toro, the wines and the city.
I'm here with Felipe Nalda, who is the president of the Regulatory Council of the Denomination of Origin Toro.
Felipe, thanks for receiving us.
Thank you.
Carlos has explained us the past history. You have a millennia-long history, and how wine was made in subterranean cellars. I'd like to discuss with you starting around the formation of the denomination of origin, when several producers got together to organize things. Can you tell me about it?
We are in a year of celebration, as it is the 35th anniversary of the DO. It was created in 1987 thanks to 7 wineries, 7 pioneers that were here at that time in the area, and a good group of viticulturalists from the 15 municipalities composing the denomination of origin Toro. 12 in the province of Zamora and 3 in the province of Valladolid.
From the 7 producers in 1987, how many do you have now?
During the initial years, around 1987, things were very static. There was not great investments in the area. Those wineries did grow in size and sales with the quality level of the denomination of origin Toro and its 4 grape varieties. During the 1990s, there start to be some new winery projects coming from other denominations, from other viticultural areas, even foreign, and then comes the boom. Around 2000, we have a big explosion, with several family groups coming to the area, to a total of 65 producers nowadays.
65. What part of the total wine production is sold outside Spain?
We have passed 40% of our total production for the export market.
It is clear that here Tinta de Toro, the Tempranillo, is the queen. But you also have other red grapes like Garnacha, and then the whites, Malvasia,
Castellana, Verdejo, and in the new disposition, we have expanded the white range, which has not been difficult, as they already have a long history with us. They were very traditional in the area. Even in the popular folklore, they appear these new accepted varieties. We have introduced Albillo Real and Moscato Petit Grain. As a novelty, the Garnacha Tinta was only allowed up to 20% of red blends, or to make rosé wines 100% out of Garnacha. We have modified this, and now we allow 100% Garnacha reds.
I assume that you limit the production by hectare. Do you restrict irrigation as well?
No, we don't restrict irrigation. A few years ago we had limitations that did not have any sense. I say it loud and clear, when the vine needs water, we have to provide it. We do have a preventive limitation at particular times of the year. Every year at the end of the season, when we can project the harvest, in view of production and attending to the natural cycle of the vine, then we can limit irrigation sometime close to harvest time. Sometime around August, mid-August, depending on several factors. We check on the possibility of an excess of production If we detect that a vineyard may have an excess of production, then we invite the viticulturist to carry out a green pruning.
And finally, the qualifications. What qualifications you have here for the wine?
Basically, like in all denominations. In white wines, the novelty is that they are starting to ferment in barrique. It's not regulated, so it can be aged or fermented in oak. It will be like the oak qualification. Practically all whites are young. They don't see the barrique. But we have this possibility as well. We have also allowed sweet and semi-sweet wines, and even sparkling wines, although here they are marginal. We don't want to put doors to the country field. Those who have this initiative, they can now do it under the umbrella of the DO. Thanks to you.
In this section, we will discuss the climate and the geology of the denomination of origin Toro, as they relate to grape growing in this region.
But if I lay down and I play dead and I stay dead, maybe you'll get sick.
The climate in Toro is also evolved, as the DO possesses an extreme continental climate with long and cold winters and viciously hot summers. Temperatures in winter can get below -10 degrees Celsius and reach the 40s during the long summer days. However, the high altitudes for 600 to 800 meters above sea level provide a high diurnal range, with temperatures dropping substantially overnight during the hot summer, helping prolong the ripening of the grapes and achieve consistency and structure during the large number of sunlight hours during the season. Rainfall is right at the minimum limit for grape production, with 350 to 400 millimeters per annum.
Got me coming back for more, even when I've been
The
screwed.
climate of Toro today is a good example of it. It is very extreme. It is not a desert. But we are not that far, as we have approximately 300 liters of rainfall per year, which is very little. And we have more than 3,000 hours of sunlight per year, which is a lot. This obviously has its pros and cons. Regarding the vine diseases, it is wonderful because doing basically nothing, we have an ecologic viticulture. It may not be officially certified ecologic, but it's the same. The grape production level uses to be smaller than in other regions up the Duero River. And we are lucky to count with the Tinta de Toro variety, which I claim not to be Tempranillo. We can argue here for a long time, but it is a variety that has adapted to these conditions for a long time, to this climate, to this terroir. We can call it what we want. It all makes it develop very well. It is easy. While in other places they have more challenges like frosts or too much humidity and the corresponding diseases. Here in Toro we are privileged to have this climate and this variety that guarantees very good harvests.
Never really know just what you want.
So I'm here with Manolo Fariña, who is the owner of Bodegas Fariña. Manolo, glad to be with you.
Thank you very much.
You don't understand the pain it brings. You don't ever want.
How do you describe the climate here?
The climate is continental, extreme. We cook ourselves in summer and we freeze in winter. But from the point of view of viticulture, what is usually neglected, the thermic change during the maturation time, which is very important.
The thermic change between day and night. The temperature lowering overnight.
Contraction during night, extraction under the sun. Contraction, extraction. This means that all of that is stored in the leaves. And the enhanced circulation helps in terms of aromatics in particular.
And it results in more concentration on the grape, right? It prolongs the maturation period.
And this is all due to the height of this area, right?
Yes, here we are at 750 meters above sea level, at least.
This makes the nights to be substantially colder, even 20 or 30 degrees lower than during the day, right?
We can have 35 or 38 degrees during the day, and in the evening a drop to 14 or 15 degrees. You need to wear something as it gets cold.
I know you told your friend you're not okay. And tell me what.
Toro's landscape is an alternation of rolling hills and flat areas that organize around the pass of the river Duero through the region. Sand dominates the soil, conferring the vines with a particular environment for grape growing and protecting it against the attack of phylloxera. But not only sand is found in Toro terrains. Indeed, the soils are a sedimentary mix of sand, clays and limestone, producing a dark lime very in topsoil with fine and coarse sands, and many times rolling stones as big as the one I'm holding in my hands right now.
My brain, all of a sudden I don't look at anything the same way. Gotta build up of my thoughts sitting in an ash.
Then the geology, or geography, or orography if you want. Well, this is slightly different, as I see ondulations. But the Toro region is basically a flat area, with terrain benches around the river at different heights, but substantially flat, right?
There are not many slopes around here. Obviously, there are differences whether you are facing the south or the north. Sometimes we look to avoid the sun. The orography, this could be a good example of the orography of the area. They are usually gentle slopes. In the end, the river Duero is governing the landscape. Regarding the soil, there are some differences. In the northern areas, particularly in Valladolid or Morales de Toro, there is more clay, while in this part, in the south, we are now in Valdefinjas. The soil is deeper and sandy, and we find stones. These rolling stones are very common around here. The nice thing is that the clay is underneath, 2, 3, 4 meters underneath, it depends, and this helps retaining the little water that falls.
Hi, I'm in San Roman, in the denomination of origin Toro, in the province of Valladolid, with Catalina Madra, who is the commercial director of Bodegas Elías Mora. Hola Catalina, gracias por recibirme, ¿cómo estás?
Hi, good morning. Very well, thanks.
You are in Valladolid, which is an area different from the rest of the denomination when it comes to soils in particular. They have more clay, but then you have these rolling stones everywhere. Indeed, stones that are not a joke. Can you tell me about this?
What you have said. We're in San Roma de Juanja, a town that pertains to the denomination of the origin Toro. But inside the province of Valladolid, we love this area for what you've said before. Because it provides a mix of soils found in Zamora and Valladolid. For us it is very important to have them well classified, because we can make our wines accordingly. Each wine comes from a different vineyard, from a different soil. Here we have two rivers. We have the river Horija and the river Toro that you can see at the end in the valley. Our vineyards are in different places, some close to the rivers, some in the Toro Valley, and some in the Valladolid area. These are vineyards between 30 and more than 100 years of age. And they all have lots of stones and clay. But we also have a mixture of clay and limestone.
I am in San Roman, the small town of the DO Toro, and a perfect place to talk about viticulture and the grapes of this region. When the phylloxera devastated the vineyards of the whole European continent, many of Toro's vines survived the attack. Viticulturists started exporting both wine and grapevines to devastated regions in other parts of Europe and have since maintained a traditional viticultural process for many decades. The river Duero creates a floodplain in the Toro region, providing the vines with a never-ending water source, which is at times necessary due to the very low rainfall levels in the area. Toro vineyards are planted at high altitudes to benefit from cool nights during the hot maturation months. The best plots are usually found to the south of the river.
Talking about viticulture, these are bunch vines. Of course, manual harvest.
It cannot be otherwise.
I assume that you follow a very traditional approach in the viticultural process.
Yes, indeed, there is not too much risk with the vineyard here. You have some liberty to play in the winery, but in the vineyard, we know what works. You need to plough the plot a couple of times, perhaps 3 per year, a bit of sulfur and copper, a couple of times also as the climate helps. Pruning is not complicated. These are low bunches. Sometimes we try to raise the vines to get the grapes further from the ground to avoid animals, for example. We practice a very traditional viticulture.
It does not rain much here and we are at high heights. You see the wind accompanying us along the year, as we are in a flat Miesta. We have altitude, but this is all flat. These all make the vineyard very healthy and we don't need lots of treatments. It is all well under control. Rain is scarce, but enough to maintain the vineyard. The vines feel water stress in summer, but what helps are the drastic changes in temperature between day and night in summer. It helps them to recover and to continue maturing a grape that ends really healthy.
Here you have a good concentration of pre-phylloxeric vineyards that you don't find elsewhere.
Pre-phylloxera and what was planted after that, as it was done on Pie Franco.
Pie Franco, that is basically Vitis vinifera root.
Viticulturists were very careful with their clonal selection. They knew what vines gave the best grapes. Right before harvest, they tied the vines to then know which ones were the best. They took the tips of the plant and tied them together like this. After the harvest, they knew which ones were the best, as they had marked them. And from those vines, they got samples which they used to plant a new vine.
And with the Pie Franco, they planted them on a new site, right?
No. With this method, they dug a hole in the ground and they buried a branch they bent, sometimes breaking it a bit. That was good, as it helped the buried section to grow roots. Trying to heal the plant grows roots and helps the growth of the new plant. Viticulture is naturally ecological because with this sun, sometimes we have mildews. But everybody knows what times you need to apply preventative treatments. First, an initial treatment, when the grape is a little green berry. The second, and when it starts to ripen, the third.
This is pressure, as you say, is mainly powdery mildew, which is always present as is endemic.
Exactly. We also have downy mildew. But now we have some technical advances and we know how to control the disease and how to act against downy mildew. But years gone by, we had mildew and all was lost.
Manual harvest.
There is no other way. What is very important is pruning.
Winter pruning, and then you also do green pruning.
This happens at this time. Sometimes it's done right after budding. When it buds, if you leave 5 buds, for example, what you do immediately is to get rid of any one of those 5 that's not doing well.
Two red grapes dominate plantings in Toro: Tempranillo, which is called Tinta de Toro here, and Garnacha, also known as Tinto Aragonés. Tinta de Toro is the autochthonous variety per excellence of this denomination. Although well known in wine production, it is slightly different from the Tempranillo grapes found in other regions of Spain, as it has adapted to this area and evolved in a very particular way for centuries. One differentiation factor is the fact that Tinta de Toro vines are not grafted in American rootstocks many times, but feed from the sandy soils on its original Vitis vinifera roots. But white grape varieties are also allowed here, including Verdejo, Malvasia Castellana, Albillo Real and Moscatel a Petit Grain.
And finally, the grape. Of course, Tinta de Toro. I won't say Tempranillo, as I know that you don't like it. Why is Tinta de Toro different from the Tempranillo that you can find in other places, like in Rioja, perhaps more similar to the one in Ribera del Duero? Why is the grape different here?
The climate and the adaptation are key here. The leaf is more hairy here. Not easy to see now, as it is not fully developed yet, but it is very clear around harvest time. The reverse of the leaf has way more hair than in Rioja, for example, where they have more humidity. It is an adaptation to drought. It is a way to control transpiration. It conserves water better. The grape is smaller as well, and production is smaller. This results in more concentration of sugars and tannins. It is a question of looking for an equilibrium with the acidity, which is the key in viticulture. Equilibrium with the acidity.
I believe that we're in a place where the first difference is rain. It rains way less here than in other places. In fact, the last 3 years we have seen a decrease in production because we don't have the rain we'd like to have. We are at a high altitude, it's hotter and it rains less. This makes the grape to be smaller, with a thick skin. This results in high tannic storage levels. This is big colour, and the aromas are more concentrated. Tinta de Toro has adapted to this area, to this soil and to this climate during centuries. We obtain very powerful wines, with lots of colour, lots of tannins, but at the same time, wines that preserve the fruit and age in the bottle in a very elegant way. They age for a long time.
Plants are like people. You go to a hot place and you take your shirt off and wear shorts. If you go to a cold place, you wear a coat and a hat. The plant does the same. If it does not rain, like here, which is the main difference, for the plant to continue to live, it needs to dig deeper and look for water to survive.
This is a really beautiful view of the River Duero, and I'm in Toro again. Well, many things happen here. So what a better place to learn about the winemaking in this region. There are varied methods of wine elaboration in Toro, but the most characteristic are those employed in the making of strong, long-lived reds based on Tinta de Toro. These are usually dark and tannic and very savory, even with a jammy taste at times. They're colorful and strong. Variations from the traditional reds based entirely on Tinta de Toro use garnacha in blends of higher complexity and slightly different character. And although white wines are also made here, Toro mainly focuses on character-driven red wines. We will see how these are done. Alright, I'm here with Martín Padín, who is the enologist of Bodegas Matsu. We are in a cooperative, and he's also the enologist of the cooperative, but we're going to be talking about Matsu, Bodegas Matsu here.
Hi Martin, thanks for receiving us.
Good afternoon, and thanks for coming to our winery.
Bodegas Matsu makes wines from very old vineyards of the cooperative. The cooperative produces a lot, and Matsu has been taking over a good part of the production. You currently bottle more than half of the total production of the cooperative.
We bottle for them. We take care of all the process, and from that we get the Matsu wines, from the indications they give us, for the elaboration and the aging.
Cooperatives in these regions, in Europe in general, but particularly here in Spain and Castilla and Leon, took a very important role in the past when the rural areas lost population and viticulturists joined efforts to save the business. This is one example of that, right?
It's true that it was like that. Cooperatives formed as a result of a need. Viticulturists and producers needed to sell their grapes or find a way to use it themselves because they needed to defend their production. The union of many viticulturists forming cooperatives is what has made this what it is now. It allowed them to preserve the vineyards, gaining strength from the union when it comes to sell their products in the market.
How many viticulturists are part of this one?
In the Toro winery, there are 180 viticulturists right now.
In all your wines, you do the two fermentations, the alcoholic and the malolactic, in these deposits?
Yes, in concrete vats. As you see, we have many deposits. They are small deposits of 15,000 liters capacity. This helps us to separate small elaborations from different vineyards. It allows us to make a selection of the vineyards to see what are the characteristics of the wines from each of them, from each zone and regions, with its microclimate and its terroir.
Martin, we're now in the room of the barriques. Here's where the wine takes its personality, like the faces of Matsu wines.
This is the final stage, the stage of crianza or aging of the wines. Once the elaboration is finished in the concrete vats with its micro-oxygenation, they come to this room where they rest for 1 or 2 years.
Did you use American oak as traditional done here in the past?
Yes, we use American and French. American oak will provide sweetness, smoothness and creaminess. And French oak provides structure. French oak goes to the wines with longer aging to provide more structure before the bottle, to become rounder and long-lived. Tinta de Toro is a variety with lots of personality, with lots of structure already, and American oak accompanies it very well, sometimes leading to round wines from the process in concrete by plots keeping traceability. And we treat different plots differently. To some vineyards, American oak works best. For others, French, with 1 year or 2 or 3, depending on the product that we make.
We use both American and French oak, depending on the style of wine. We use one or the other and a mix of both as well. All the barriques are of 225 litres and all wines in the winery run through them.
Do you have different toasting levels? Do you use new and used, like a palette of colors for the final making?
The toast level is always the same, medium. But we use barriques from different coopers. We work with different providers. We use them for blending. Barriques are American and French oak, and they are used up to 3 years.
And you make different styles. We're going to taste 3 of them. One is your John, which indeed is oak, so it would be a Roble. The Scarte is a little more aged, and then higher in the game, the Gran Elias Mora.
The Gran Elisa Mora.
Can you describe the process of elaboration?
Yes, our Vinus Elisa Mora, which is the youngest of all, ages 6 months in barrique. For this wine we use American oak, as we believe that with the red fruit of this wine, American oak is a perfect complement.
And it's going to be only 6 months in contact, as it is more aggressive. And it will not overpower the wine.
Yes, this is good enough. It is a wine. That aside of the 6 months in barrique, it stays around 10 months in the bottle. Don't forget that we work with Tinta de Toro, which is a very powerful variety and needs its time. To round the tannin, which is archive with some time in the bottle. In our winery, we like the wine to get to the consumer ready to drink.
And Descarte?
Descarte comes from vineyards facing north. Just a notice, they are very special vineyards. We have a production of 11,000 bottles, more or less, no more. That wine ages in French barriques for 12 months, and then between 2 and 2.5 years in the bottle.
And the Gran Elias Mora?
The Gran Elias Mora is a wine very personal to Vicky. It comes from those vineyards that the old people in town showed her 20 years ago and told her that they were among the best plots in the area. Gran Elias Mora comes from a vineyard that is called La Senda de los Lobos, the Path of the Wolves. We don't make it all years. In December, Vicky comes here and tastes all of the barriques and finally decides if she is making the Gran Elias Mora or not. If we make the wine, ages 17 months in French barriques and then spends 2, 3 or 4 years in the bottle, depending on its evolution.
I'm here with Víctor Conde in Bodegas Fariña, and we're going to be talking about the history of El Primero.
Hi Victor, how are you?
Nice to meet you.
Can you tell us about the art in these bottles?
El Primero is the most Fariña wine. This is one of the most popular of the winery because it has a curious story. And it's the first wine that gets to the market every year, like the French Nouveau. Indeed, this wine sees its origin in 1995, when the French make nuclear bomb experiments in the Mururoa atoll, and the Dutch decided to boycott French wine. Our importer, who sold lots of Beaujolais Nouveau, asked Manolo Fariña to make a similar wine. Manolo told him that a Beaujolais not, but that he could do a Toro Nouveau, and this has become very important for us.
And you started to add art to the label at that moment, right?
Correct, from the beginning. We started with a painting and the Dutch artist who made the label, Van der Braak. He did it for a couple of years. After the Dutch started to buy French wine again, and our El Primero became a more global product at both national and international levels, we continued with art from local artists in the area of Zamora and Salamanca, and since 2006 we run a contest. This is the label of the winner from the year 2021 with its art. And this is the art of the winner for the label of the 2022 vintage.
These are the 3 finalists, and in the middle the winner, which will go in the bottles in November.
As the winning label.
We're now in the elaboration room, and aside from El Primero that you have explained to us with the art, here's where you made the rest of the wines with crianza, for example the Gran Colegiata and Campus. How does it work? How do you elaborate them?
For us, the fruit is the most important.
And this is the Tempranillo that Manolo was explaining before, that is Tinta de Toro here.
Exactly, well, a little different, as Manolo has explained before. We try to preserve the essence of the fruit, and depending on the wine we want to make, we use one or another method. In the case of Gran Colegiata Original, the Reserva, we keep it 18 months in American oak.
I have the current Gran Colegiata, and you had the first one.
Correct. All the wines in the winery were called Colegiata, which is the most important monument that we have here in Toro, worth visiting. And from a given time, it became called Gran Colegiata. What is special about this wine is that it was one of the first wines from Toro to be recognized internationally in a Swiss journal called Vino. I will show you the transition, as it was a change to a Bordeaux bottle. Precisely in that year, 1982, it participated in a tasting of the Vino Journal, which is still an important wine publication, against other wines from the Duero River, with those from the best-known producers of the Duero, and it was the one most liked. From there, we explode and with us, the denomination of origin.
And you have returned to the bottle.
Yes, we have returned to the Burgundian bottle as a recognition, as we call it now, the Gran Colegiata Original, because of its origin. At that time, this was a wine in a very Rioja style somehow, which is what was successful in Spain at that time. Now it has become a reserva of the 21st century. It started elaborated by Manolo, the father, and this one is more the style of Manu Fariña, the son. Then Campus is a selection of our vineyards. Different vineyards. The original comes from vineyards of more than 70 years. For Campus, the vineyards are really much older,
Like the one we have visited.
that were planted between the middle of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century. We have this wine 15 months in French and American oak barriques. For this wine, we look for the potential of the Tinta de Toro, making a wine with more structure.
We're now in your.
A tasting room or something like that.
I'd like you to explain how you elaborate the wines from the grapes that you have sown us in the vineyard.
Our method of elaboration is very artisan. I have my technical training, but in the end, we put in practice what we learned from our grandparents. In all our wines, we are ultimate defenders of Tinta de Toro and the traditional elaboration method. In the end, it is minimum intervention. I like to say that my wines are logical. Now we have an extended palette of colors with biologic, biodynamic. Here, fortunately, because of our climate, so dry, it's very easy to minimally intervene in the wine. Aside of that, Tinta de Toro is a grape with huge potential even when it comes to acidity.
So your wines want to express the strength of the bull in Toro.
That's correct. Although I try to make them easy to drink, which is what we all want, I remember at the beginning, all I saw were people drinking beer more than wine. Well, I wanted them to get closer to the world of wine. These are wines with more moderate alcohol levels. We are talking about 13.5 or 14% ABV, with an acidity that equilibrates the drink. This is a wine, it's true, it's a modern style of wine. It is easy to make a wine that you like, without abandoning the Toro character. In the end, if it is called Toro, it must be strong and red. Making wine is to read the vineyard. If you know your vine and how it reacts to the vintage and different circumstances, that needs to be transmitted into the wine. It seems easy, but it's not so easy.
You also age your wines in barrique, but I'd like to hear about it in the winery. Well, Kiko, now we're ready. Not only for you to tell us how you make and age your wines, but also for you to show it from the barrique. How did you make them?
We start from the point that barrique is not the most important, but I do use barrique in all my wines.
What oak species?
French oak 98 or 99% of the times. We also have Americans. I use oak as if I was searching for colors. We bring wines from different vineyards and we place it in different barriques. They become variables. Then I look into a barrique with more or less toasting level, from one cooper or another, until the wine comes closer to the one you want to make. I wanted to try this wine that comes from a vineyard that we call La Higuera or Pio Viejo. It is a vineyard we have started to vinify in this vintage of 2021. It has enormous potential, but I still don't know very well if it will be a vineyard wine or not. I still don't know how long it will stay in barrique.
Are you experimenting?
It is not baptized yet, but it's a wine with a huge potential.
How long has it been here?
Since mid-October, more or less.
From the last vintage.
From the last vintage. The nose is intense. This is an old vineyard and the grape is very small production. From 2 hectares we are getting 2,500 kilos. Basically 1,000 or 1,200 kilos per hectare, which is really low. Most likely it will become a wine guarda, similar to El Pellejo, or along the same line.
It is aggressive. The tannins are still harsh.
That's correct, this is real rock and roll. Yes, but then the wines become smooth and elegant.
How long more do you think it should stay in oak to smooth these harsh tannins?
Perhaps a total of 18 months or 20 months of barrique is possible.
Toro wines have always been characterized by the enormous power and personality of the Tinta de Toro grape. Let's taste some of these wines in the house of the winemakers while we ask them about their characteristics. Food is equally unique in Zamora and extremely varied. We will also try very characteristic dishes of the area, and we will do it together with the Toro wine, of course.
Well, the best part is always the tasting. We start with the Malvasia.
We were looking for those oaky notes, while respecting the varietal character, looking for those white flowers from Malvasia. It's a 2019 and the color is still very alive. It was a very fresh year, 2019, fresh and rainy, making the white wines to survive for a longer time.
It has good acidity.
As you see, it is a savory wine with structure. It has that point of acidity that tells this wine will be a fresh one.
Just it's fresh and the oak notes are very subtle, but it's spiced.
It is oily.
Yes, and it fills the mouth. And now El Viejo,
The old man.
not despectively of course.
Yes, it is our old man. This relates with the nature of Matsu. Matsu is a Japanese name that means the waiting. For us it means that you need to be patient, not to hurry to get it to the market, only when it's at its optimal point.
How long has it been in the making, since harvest until you commercialized it?
18 months in barrique, and after that another year in the bottle.
You can tell the difference in color.
Yes, it is a wine with a deeper color. The elaboration is slightly different as well. There is more concentration. We are looking for a long-lived wine. For this wine we do the malolactic in the barrique.
I can feel the barrique here more. Spices and toasty aromas. Fruit is a little less prominent, more ripened.
Yes, in the mouth we see that this wine has more structure, more body. This wine has more tannins, although sweet tannins. It has not much more to round itself. It's pretty developed.
And it has a good acidity. It is not an acid wine, but it has acidity.
It has freshness, it makes you salivate, and wanting to drink more. In the end, the grape, the terroir that we have here, and the climate makes that these wines, not only here but in all wineries, to be very good.
Thanks a lot, Martin, for the tasting.
Thank you for coming and help bring our wines to all corners of the world.
And now the funniest time, tasting the wines. We're going to start with the Roble. This is your youngest wine. But it is not young by definition, as it is barrique. But you made it with the spirit of being fruity, easy to drink, agile, I suppose.
Yes, this is called Venice alias Mora. comes from those vineyards in front of the winery, close to the rivers. There are vines of 35 or 40 years of age that we use for these wines. For us, this is what you have said, the wine is fruit, pure red fruit.
Yes, it's very aromatic in the nose, and lots of fruit, because I feel the wood, but it's hidden, well integrated.
Very integrated.
Fills the mouth and has good acidity. Sometimes you think that Tempranillo lacks acidity, because you don't add any other grape, right?
No, it's only Tinta de Toro.
This is pretty acid, and it's still salivating.
Yes, it is very fresh, very fruity. It has red fruit. And that sweet touch of the barbecue of American oak as well that goes well with this wine style. It's a wine to drink it. Without too much fault, agile, easy to accompany anything.
It's pretty good. And now the last one. We always leave the best for the end. This is the top of your game. The most nurtured, the most aged, the most distinct.
Yes, this is Ran Elias Mora. It is a 2015 vintage, which was a very good year. A very good harvest, a very good vintage.
I can see the color is more brown, more aged.
This is a wine coming from La Senda de los Lobos. A plot of about 700 meters of altitude in the valley of the river Toro. These are very old vineyards, all planted in bunch vines.
I get all these spicy and toasty tones from the wood, but the fruit is not that present anymore. Perhaps more stewed fruit with more black fruit.
Yes, this is more black fruit. You can also get what is typical from here of a Tinta de Toro, which is layers. Can you feel it? The wine has many layers. As we discussed before, if we leave it open another half an hour, it will open more and bring more characteristics. Later it will end coming back, that fruit, but ripened fruit, black fruit.
The alcohol is also quite high.
A little, yes. In this wine we have a little more of alcohol, that's correct.
Oh yes, this is a wine with class.
It's very elegant. It's deep. You get all this aroma of back fruit. You get this fruit like Caris, ripened fruits, but not sweet. It's somehow bitter.
It's more tannic.
Yes, but it's a very well-rounded tannin, very well integrated. It is from 2015. It has been a while in the bottle.
But it can still improve in the bottle. Yes, because it has a lot of intensity and complexity. So it will likely evolve with more tertiaries than it already possesses. Catalina, thanks very much for all your explanations and for showing us your winery and the vineyards, and allowing us to taste these wines that are fabulous.
Thank you for coming to visit us and dedicate time to our winery.
Thank you very much.
Salud, thanks.
Okay, Victor, let's taste your wines. We'll start with the Novo?
With el primero.
With el primero, I'm sorry. This is wine made to remark the fruit, right?
Exactly, a wine easy to drink.
Agile.
Very aromatic. The carbonic maceration makes the wine to be like that. It has lots of red fruit, like jelly fruits, jelly strawberry. This year also brings lots of flowery aromas. I said it is a wine for all the public.
It has good acidity, and it fills the mouth with all kinds of flavors.
And very well rounded.
Very good for an aperitif before lunch.
Yes, this is a wine that, as we say here, to go tapas.
Well, this is the original. I cannot wait to taste it, as this is the one that changes the denomination, not just your winery.
Well, it is a wine that was the origin of everything, particularly our origin. It is a wine that we want to display fruit aromas and the complexity provided by the barrique, with more toasty aromas,
with more spice.
with some spice, more ripe fruit. Yes, overall, very fruity. As you see in the mouth, you can feel all the notes from the barrique, but the fruit remains, as it is always the more important in our wines. We always want it out. It's a wine to drink. As I usually say, it's a reserva of the 21st century. It's a reserva to enjoy, to drink, and that you finish the bottle without noticing it.
We started with the Nouveau, and with this we finish.
The dessert.
Okay, salud, and thanks for showing us the wines of the winery. We are very pleased to have visited Bodegas Fariña. The most interesting part, to taste the wines. We start with
Bigardo. This is our flagship. This hand with the horns means Toro made by hand.
it's not of a very deep color.
It's pretty light. Think that this wine has nothing to do with what you would expect from a wine of this area, a wine of Toro, or in general, from a wine of such extreme climate. It only has 13.5 degrees of alcohol, a very controlled maceration, very smooth extraction. It's a very versatile wine, a wine for everybody. For someone who starts drinking wine, Bigardo can be a good first step. It still displays complexity. Yes, it is very aromatic. That's it.
It's red fruit.
It's basically red fruits. Yes, it's red fruits. I get lots of raspberries, sometimes licorice, which is common in the area. I want to believe that it is a reference of the house, that point of acidity, which is very particular of the area. It makes it easy to drink for more people to like it.
A fantastic wine for a light aperitif or some tapas. And now the top of the game.
The top of the game. This is a wine that we make in 2018 for the first time, the first vintage. It comes from our oldest vineyard, the vineyard of my grand-grandfather, Tomás Muñoz Muñoz. He made pellejos, it was his work. The name El Pellejo goes for him.
Okay, then I'm expecting a wine more sophisticated.
It's a more powerful wine, with a higher alcohol grade. You don't feel the increased alcohol as in Maldito Parné. We use the first vineyard to be harvested because it gives me already what I am looking for in that wine. Pellejo is made from the last harvested vineyard.
I do feel the alcohol and the spices. I feel a very gentle wood touch.
It has seen 14 months of barrique. This is for someone who likes wine and is used to powerful wines. Also the acidity, I insist, as it makes the wine fresh, not very heavy. This one can be drunk after lunch. You can drink it as a distilled, like a whiskey. To finish the meal with this wine. Well, this for me and anyone from Toro, when you see La Colegiata, is like you are home, even if in a photograph.
And the best thing is those who live here, the monks of the church, had a fantastic view.
You bet.
A river with history that flows through so many denominations of wine.
Yes, the Duero River is the main axis of the region. Imagine what it means to see this every morning when you wake up. I see this every morning from my home, nearby here. You can see lots into the distance. Hey Alvarito, what's up?
How are you, Alvaro?
Who is this? A friend?
We're making a documentary of wine.
Wait, you can't have wine without food.
It's already lunchtime. I'm a bit hungry.
Let's go for lunch.
My restaurant is right here. You're invited.
Don't say more.
You always arrive at the best time. Very convenient, Alvarito. What are you going to cook for us?
The typical dish of the area. As you know, in the Colegiata restaurant you can't miss it. Zamorano rice.
Zamorana-style rice.
It's the most characteristic dish. I was among the first to include it here in Toro. It's one of my specialities.
You think you make it better than my mum's?
Mums probably make it better.
Rice is good, but there will be a second dish with it.
We have a cod dish that, by the way, is the champion of Spain.
Did you win an award?
The best cod dish in Spain is currently at La Colegiata restaurant.
Alright, Alvaro, you're bringing the rice the Zamorana style.
This is the old star dish of the poor. Indeed, back then it was called the poor's rice. Of course, I've tweaked the recipe a bit, but without altering the essence of the dish. It is a strong dish, based on pork. I hope you enjoy it.
Okay, let's try it.
It's really good.
This rice accepts everything. It was called the poor's rice because in the past they used all the leftovers to go with the rice. You're going to continue with the current Spanish champion cod.
Okay, let's try it.
I have to say that I had not tried it since they gave you the award. It is true that I hadn't tried it.
This cod has an award, not surprising because it melts itself.
To finish the star dish, you cannot leave La Colegiata restaurant without trying the Toro tail.
Toro tail in Toro.
It's cooked with a Bijado wine. Toro wine is not only good to drink, but to cook with as well. It enhances the taste. It's our star dish, and I hope you'll enjoy it.
Possibly the Toro tail is among the most tender meats around.
I say goodbye here. Thanks for this amazing day that you have made us enjoy not only of your winery, your vines and your wines, but of everything, the culture of the zone.
It's a pleasure for me.
Toro is definitively a region of character. Vines with character, wines with character, people with character. Characters that have been shaped by a very particular and extreme climate and a unique territory. It has been a really great experience to visit this area, meet its people, drink its wines and try its cuisine. A fantastic place.